Checking, double check. Hello, everybody. My apologies. After the stream of yesterday, I had to check some things to make sure that everything is going all right. Because let's just say things didn't go as planned yesterday. But that's all fixed now. I'm watching myself and I can see that I have a connection. And let's quickly check for the audio. Well, that's weird. I can see myself talking and OBS has... Did I? Hold it. I think I might know. Yes. Excellent. Yes. I had shut down the sound on my laptop. So, yeah. I can hear myself. So we've got audio, we've got video, everything is working. Perfect. And I fixed the other things that were going wrong yesterday as well. So September is here. That means the official start of the autumn. And it also means the official start of the Golden Quill Month, September, which is today. And we've got things planned. Oh, well, I've got things planned for myself. Let me put it that way. And I think I need to turn on some lights. Let me do that first. Because it's starting to get dark outside. My apologies. Oh. That's better. So I have planned things for myself for this month. I hope to finish chapter 2. And on top of that, I want to work on my short story that I told you guys yesterday about. And we'll see how that goes. I have no idea. But that is most definitely the second project I will be working on. And for the rest, we'll see. I'll just see how things go, how my brain decides to cooperate this month, because, yeah, that's still an issue. And, you know, I'll just go with the flow. Today, I want to do two things. I want to talk about a few myths about authors. I want to debunk them because I really don't believe in them, and I feel that it's not good if you keep believing them. And I, of course, want to do creative sessions to help you kick off the September Golden Quill Month in good fashion. So let's let's see. Dida, welcome in. You began your ink collection. That is awesome. Maybe you can share with the audience what you were working on, because I, for one, love your project. I'm really looking forward to the result of it. I can tell you guys, it is an awesome project, but I'm not telling you anything about it. That's all up to Dida if she wants to share it. I do know that I will be using it in the future. So yes, let me check one more thing. And then, oh great. Yeah, go ahead and share what your project is all about. While I check one thing that just popped up in my thoughts. Okay, yeah, I set the dates for my short story correctly, so that's good. That's good. I'm happy to hear that, to see that. So yeah, what I wanted to say, author myths are a serious problem, and I think we need to tackle that. We need to debunk that, especially in a month like this, like the Golden Quill Month. I think it is important that you let go of those myths because they might hold you back, and that is absolutely not necessary. So while Dita is deciding what she can share with us, let's look into the first myth that I'd like to debunk. And that is the myth that an author always works alone. And that an author's job is a lonely job. There are two ways to look at it. You're writing your story, and it is your story, and no one else can write it but you. In that respect, it could be a lonely job, but there are several ways to do this. You can have ghostwriters, for example. You tell them what you want to write and they write it for you. You can have a couple who writes. A very famous couple that writes is Nietzsche French. They are husband and wife. And that means that, from what I understand of how they write, let me put it that way, they each write a part and they exchange that and they work on other parts and things like that. So that is a way to write. You can have multiple ways of co-authoring. I mean, they just happen to be a couple, but I do know there are other authors who are actually co-writing a book. And then there's also another way, but that's more like a write-in. So you are you're not alone while you are writing. So you are coming together like we did before COVID in write-ins. That is how I started writing in a bookstore of all places. They had a table there where we could sit down with a whole group and we would write, and each would work on their own story, but we would be together and we could talk to each other and talk about how things were going and where we had struggles with, what we had struggles with, where we might need some input, things like that. So even though you are writing your own story, you're not alone. There's a difference. And of course, there are sparring partners. For me, Dita is a very important sparring partner. We've been sparring partners for years already. And we found each other through Camp NaNoWriMo several years ago. And Dita has been instrumental for me in figuring out several things of the Tergne Chronicles, of Tergne itself. She has been a true support when I was stuck with things. And that is what you can do as a sparring partner. And it doesn't mean that your sparring partner is writing your story for you, but a sparring partner can ask just the right questions, maybe not even knowing that they are asking the right questions, to get you going again. So yeah, that's how sparring partners can work. And chain writing. It's something that we started in our Discord, but we didn't really get through with it. Maybe we will pick it up in the future again, where someone starts a story and then the next person continues that story. So you're working on one complete story, but each person writes a little part of the story. That's chain writing. That's what we started with. So again, you're not alone, and the story becomes yours and from everyone who works on that story. So yeah, an author's work is not a lonely job, and it's not something you always do alone. Now let's check on what Dita has been telling us. Dita, you say you're going to teach yourself how to make an ebook, so you'll collect stuff, research about ink, and everything will be Googleable, so the result will be a free product. That's awesome. That's awesome. And Likewise, also you're a great partner. Thank you very much. And Dida, you say you really believe in me. Thank you. And you think Chagna has something unique the world needs to see. Thank you. You're making me blush. I mean, yeah, I love Chagna. Let me put it that way. And of course, I think it's unique because it's the world I created. But hearing that from other authors and from other readers, that they really think that Tagenay has, did you all think that Tagenay has something that sets it aside from other worlds? That is so awesome to hear. Andy, do you see? But it's true, yeah. Well, you know, I guess that's that small part of the imposter syndrome that we all seem to have at times. I mean, I know that I have taken an approach that you don't see often. I mean, I start out in a tropical setting instead of a medieval European setting. And I use flora and fauna from millions of years ago, for example. And normal flora and fauna you might find right now. I have unique creatures that I designed myself, things like that. So yeah, and I take inspiration from all kinds of cultures, which I love to do, and I try to make that a cohesive setting and truly my own. So yeah, it's fun. And did you say, and in a social cooperation to help one another and just be supportive is actually a proper help for succeeding? Exactly, and that is so important. I mean, how shall I say that? We authors, we're not competitors. I mean, it's not like a reader wants to read only one book, only one story. Far from it. I mean, I remember when I go to a bookstore, I really need to limit myself and say, okay, you know, I'm not going to take a whole stack of 10 or 20 books. No, I'm just going to buy one book. And then still I might end up with 4, but at least not 20. And the other 16 I might put on my book list for the future to buy. And that's what I mean with we're not competitors. We might write in the same genre. We're all authors, but that doesn't mean that when a reader buys my book that same reader won't buy your book. And that's the big difference. And that is why I feel it is important to support each other. That is also why Dida and I set up the Fantasy Tavern. And if I did things right, I should now be able to. Okay, I need to. I want to try it. Dida, can you type in ! Discord? It should work. Hopefully. And did you say, I never wavered in expressing faith in your Aquarius story? Yeah, I mean, Aquarius is such a wonderful world, and Dida made an incredible world and story and characters, and she makes it come alive for me. So then it's easy to support someone. But even when you don't immediately see things or can imagine things, it's still important to support people. Ask questions where things are not clear for you. When moments might seem like the famous White Room. Or when you think like, is that character doing what is in his or her personality, or maybe is there something going on? And that is so important to do. And those are all ways to support your fellow author and let your fellow author know what you like about the story, what you like about the characters, the setting, the world building, everything, because that helps your fellow author. So yeah. Okay, so next time when you are looking for the Discord link, you can type in this command, !Discord, and as you can see, that will now automatically pop up. So it's finally working. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Yes, this is our Discord. Wait, no. Yeah, it's just a link. It's the Fantasy Tavern Discord link. It should lead to our Discord. It's the same Discord that we always use. So if you want to join us in the Golden Quill Month and you'd like to talk about it and see how people are doing with their progression and with their milestones, we have a separate. Oh, we have channels in our Fantasy Discord where that are special. Words are hard today. We have a channel in the Discord specifically dedicated to the Golden Quill Months, and we post our progression there. We post our hurdles, our successes, our milestones. So feel free to join us in the Discord and post your progression and your story ideas and everything you want to do. Did you say is it just a link? Yeah, it's the link. No, totally on here. No problem. No problem. Yeah, it's the you say it's from my side, but linked to ours. Yeah, it's it's an invite I made quite a while ago, and I made it a permanent link in the Discord setting, in the server setting. So people just automatically get to get that invite. Or automatically, when people click that link, they get directly to the Fantasy Tavern Discord. So yeah. And Dita, you're right. New members are very welcome. But there's a couple of things you need to take into account. You need to check the rules. We do have rules to make sure that everything keeps running smoothly in our Discord, and to be able to participate in everything you want to participate in. You need to check the channel roles that you want to get, and that way you will be automatically added. You'll be automatically granted access to the channels that we set up for specific things. So be sure to check that out. People have been coming through us through that link. Yes. But it's a very old link I set up. I think quite in the beginning. Yeah. We covered the first myth. There's one other myth that I truly don't believe in, and that is the myth that an author has to have suffered before he or she can write a book. I think that's a nonsensical myth. You don't need to suffer to be able to write a book. You have you have imagination, you have experience, and with that, you write your book. And sure, you can. Well, let me approach it from two different sides. One is you have to have had physical or mental suffering, and every author should have had that before they can write a book. That's nonsensical. That's just, why would we all have to suffer? I mean, there are so many incredible authors out there. If we would all have to have suffered before we could write one book, I can assure you that we all would have a serious problem. Now, there's also another approach, and that is, you could see it as a suffering, but it's more, you have to, as an author, you go through steps to make your book the best book it can be. So you have to revise, you have to edit, you have to first think up the concept and the characters, the story you want to write, the setting you want to write. You might run into hurdles when developing the plot, when developing your characters, when developing your world. You might find that you don't know things. One of the things I ran into, for example, was that I didn't understand why one character wouldn't see a few other characters for years on end while they lived in the same city. I couldn't figure it out. I mean, I was like, why wouldn't they see each other? And then I went back to an old hometown of mine, and that has, I think, about 200,000 inhabitants right now. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I'm starting to understand it. Because if you live on one side of that big old town, you might not even need to go to the other side. And that is when I discovered, okay, I now understand why they wouldn't meet each other. Is that suffering? I wouldn't say it's suffering. I mean, I just did research, and it just had to click in my mind to know, like, oh right, that is why they don't meet. But it's not a mental or physical suffering like the other kind I talked about. The fact that you go through many, or might go through many edit rounds, multiple drafts, revisions, or whatever you want to call it, and then if you choose to go through traditional publishing, you need to go querying, and once you have established a contract with an agent, your agent in return needs to go querying to the publishers. If you are publishing through one of the big 5 American publishers, and UK publishers, I also think. Here in the Netherlands, it works differently, because the Dutch publishers will accept manuscripts that you as an author send, but they will only accept Dutch manuscripts, so manuscripts written in Dutch. And I'm writing my manuscript in English, so I would first have to translate it into Dutch before I would be able to offer it to a publisher here in the Netherlands. So yeah, I'm not going to go through that. I'm just going to self-publish. That's a whole different ballgame. You might consider that your books might be pirated, that your books might be used to train AI. If you don't mind that, I mean, okay, that's your ballgame. It's something I am against. I can understand it. I can understand the piracy part. Especially for people who are on a very tight budget. Sometimes it really literally might be the only way because even if you go to a library, you will need a subscription on a library to be able to borrow books. So unless you just go to the library and sit down to read a book there, you can't take it home with you if you don't have a subscription, if you are not a member of the library. So to a certain extent, I can understand the piracy part of books. The AI training? Hell no. That's no. Just no. Do I see that as suffering, that potentially in the future my books might be illegitimately used for the training of AI models, large language models? Not for my writing process. No, I don't consider it suffering. It is one of the many things we just have to deal with as an author, and it really doesn't matter if you are a self-published author or an author who is traditionally published. We all have the same risk. I mean, I know authors like George R. R. Martin, and he's the first one that popped into my mind. There are other authors. There's a whole big group of authors, also large authors whose work has been stolen and used in large language models. In other words, generative AI. So we're all in the same boat as for that goes. So yeah. Dida, you say, if you don't like to write a book, then don't. Simple as that. But if you take pleasure in it, what's stopping you? Exactly. So that's one of the things. Don't. Yeah, that's well. If you find the process of writing a book something that is not enjoyable, don't write the book. Because writing a book is all, at least fiction books, let me put it that way, at least fiction books. Those are books that come from your own imagination, and if you don't like writing that book, don't write it. Because the longer you try to do that, the more you will start to dislike writing that book, but also potentially dislike writing other books. So yeah, that's not handy. You might consider that a suffering if you decide to do that. At the same time, maybe it's your own choice, so self-chosen suffering. But yeah, no, that's not a suffering I consider to be suffering that you have to go through before writing a book. Did you say there's a difference between suffering and work? If you don't want to do the work, then don't. But if the writing process and learning it interests you, you'll do that work. Exactly. And not only you will do that work, but in the end, you will love it. I mean, sometimes research can be tedious because you are looking for that one particular thing that will work in your story. And it can be a very long time before you find that detail, or before something that you read clicks with you in a way that you think, I can use that. Maybe in a different way, but I can use it. So that gives you a different kind of satisfaction in your writing process. And did you say use AI is you're compromising your own copyright, and if you steal from someone, you violate someone else's. So AI is you lose ownership to your own stuff. Exactly. And it's specifically for generative AI and other AI that is trained on stolen data. Now, let me take a sidestep here very briefly, because I'm also working on a video about AI. We're talking specifically about generative AI. So I know phones have AI, navigation has AI. Heck, I worked as a traffic engineer a couple of decades ago, and I worked on traffic prognosis models. In essence, AI, we fed the data into the model, and it would make a model for over how the traffic would be in 20 years or in 30 years time, given the data we fed it. It was our own data from the community. But in essence, that's also AI. If you play a game, no matter which game, digital games, I should say that, video games, digital games, no matter which game you play, there is AI, artificial intelligence, in that game to make sure that, I don't know, the stuff that you gather gets into your inventory. There is AI used to train the NPCs to do things, but also to train the monsters, the enemies that you might encounter, and that you have to fight. Game companies will use their own internal calculation and their own internal models to get to the point where certain enemies have how do I say that, have the best settings to be defeated in certain cases. So that's all AI, but it's not generative AI. Generative AI is where books, emails, homework is written by the large language model, and you just feed it one or two sentences and it spits out I want to say garbage, but it spits out whatever you want it to spit out. So there's the difference, and that is the difference that we make, that we also make in the Fantasy Tavern Discord. We don't support the use of generative AI. Did you say forgot to reverse your tongue from light years today? Yeah. Sometimes. You have such moments too, no worries. Thank you. Oh, research can be great fun too. Expert rabbit hole diver here. Yep. I mean, I can spend a week in a research rabbit hole. It's, how shall I say that? When you are I remember that I was looking into, what was it? Herbs, I think. And I really spent about a week in research just to get a few tiny things. And also, like I use the let me make sure that I said it correctly. The Hang Son Doong cave in Vietnam. That is the inspiration for me for Dragon City. And Bora Bora is the inspiration for the geographical part of the Silk and Bamboo Empire. So how it looks as an environment. I was so impressed by the fact that how things work there, how it is protected, how the inner island is protected by the coral reef, for example, and which fish do go in the lagoon and which fish stay out, etc., etc. I can really get lost in that just to know more about it. And yeah, so that's definitely a rabbit hole. But I try to make sure, I try to make sure that I really get information out of it that I can actually use in my book, be it right now while I'm writing the first chapters, or be it later on when I'm writing later books. Did you say AI is still a useful tool? You're about to realize that yourself. Yeah, in certain aspects, AI can be a very useful tool, but don't let it write for you. Don't let it make your art that you want to use in books. Just go to an artist, because an artist can do so much more for you than AI can do for you. So yeah, go to an artist. And if you can't afford an artist for whom you might pay, or who asks hundreds of dollars, just check out artists on DeviantArt or other platforms. Ask around with other authors if they know good, affordable artists. If you are looking for a cover, for example, yesterday during my live stream, I gave away a cover design, I should say. Too complicated. So that people, and it was from Get Covers, and that's really affordable, and they make awesome covers. So it doesn't have to be very expensive to get really nice art. And there are artists who might work for free, or who might to get more experience, or who might work for a lower rate. Or I mean, there are so many ways that you can negotiate with artists, and also with other authors if you are looking for developmental editing or copy line editing. You have beta readers, alpha readers, etc., who can help you with certain things. So yeah, those are all handy ways to not use generative AI. And did you say actually AI as an organizing tool when having ADHD? I can imagine that. Yeah, it's I don't have ADHD. But it can be it might be a good organizing tool. I haven't used it myself, although it might be at some point handy for me. But right now I've got Scrivener and that works for me. Did he say, oh, that week that delivers 2 lines of facts, you might as well omit? That's why I'm making this booklet on ink, because that's really more extensive and interesting than it could look like at first. Yeah, it's that's also something you need to keep in mind. You write and you rewrite and you edit and do revisions, etc., etc. No matter, I mean, it doesn't matter how you call it. You might have awesome sentences and awesome scenes and chapters with incredible amount of knowledge and result of research, which you might just remove in the end because ultimately it doesn't do anything to bring the story forward. So yeah, but at the same time, it did help you write that first or second or third draft, or whichever draft you were on. So in essence, it helped you bring the story to the quality that you were looking for. And did I say, but what made you choose to collect that information is that there's a lot of crap results coming out on top when searching. Yeah, that can happen indeed. And I foresee that happening more and more. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, one more myth I wanted to talk about before we get into a creative session. And this is a pet peeve for many women, I think. Women can't write high fantasy, apparently. That's what they say. I obviously don't agree with that. And Dita obviously doesn't agree with that. Well, I can't speak for Dita, but I imagine that Dita really doesn't agree with that. I know several more authors who write high fantasy and who absolutely would not agree with that. High fantasy, other fantasy. I remember I read books from Jean-Marie Owl. At the moment, I can't say the name of the series, but for the longest time, her author name was Ye M. Owl. Owl, because that way people wouldn't know if she was a man or a woman. William Serabanda has. I have to be honest, I don't know the true name of that author. I have almost a complete series of that author, but I do know that author is not a man. But that also became not became clear after several books had been published. So yeah, it's like a weird thing where people think that we can't write high fantasy or other large books. It's like people think that we have a short attention span or something, or we can't write anything that's really influential or whatever, but we can write. We can write a lot. So yeah. And for example, Brandon Sanderson currently has someone writing in his Cosmere Mistborn world. I'm not sure which exactly. And she is it's a female author who is writing that book. And I mean, he wouldn't do that if he would believe in that myth that women can't write high fantasy. It's preposterous. So yeah. Did he say, "Oh, come try me"? Yeah, exactly. And those claiming such have a limited knowledge of fantasy. I agree. I mean, a fantasy is something we can all do. We can all come up with, and yeah. So I can't think of any reason why a woman couldn't write that. And Dita says, a short attention span, come check out what ADHD, wow, that's a tongue breaker, hyperfocus is. Well, I have to admit, when I was a child, up until my teenage years, I think, I could really hyperfocus. Later on, I could also very well do that, but now, and that's probably because of post-COVID, I can't. I have problems focusing. I have problems keeping it all together in my mind. So yeah, I'm already very glad that I managed to keep on writing my book. And somewhere in the back of my mind, dig out all that information that I need. And I'm very happy that I have so much info in Scrivener put down. So then I'm just like, I think I have that information somewhere, and then I'll just go digging in Scrivener, and eventually I will find it. So yeah, that's the thing. Did he say children have that unique ability of immersing in the present situation? Exactly, and that is the beauty of being a child. You can just go fully into that. And at some point, for some reason, we learn that we should not immerse ourselves in things, and we should be level-headed and more nonsensical things like that. Apparently, it's how society wants to deal with things, but sometimes, it's that immersion that keeps us going and that makes life interesting for us. So, with those three myths debunked and out of the way, I suggest that we go to our first creative session, and I'm going to see what more information I can find out about the short story that I'm writing. I I have found out a few things, and I found that I need to do some world building for a specific area around Dragon City. I can't tell you guys too much about it, but I need to find a cliff point. That's also in one way hiding the approach of others. Yeah, I'll need to work on that, but that's not I'm not gonna work on maps right now. I need to figure out right now where my main character starts and what exactly the reason is they go, who is playing, things like that. So yeah, a few more things to figure out before I can actually start writing the story. Did I say where else would a child learn how to concentrate on work in the future? Societal contradictions. Exactly. Okay, let's go to our first creative session of 25 minutes. I thought this was a nice environment. We're still a bit in the summer, you know. I mean, officially the the autumn has started. The autumn has started, and I mean that's all right. But I'm still a bit in the summer sphere for myself. So let's get to it. And I'm gonna put on my headphones. Yes, now I hear the sounds as well. Where is the camera? There we go. And I will see you guys in 25 minutes. And that is the end of our first creative session. How did it go for you guys? Let me first stop the counter. There we go. I hope it went well for you guys. I have to say, for me, it went pretty good. It's how can I say that? I figured out that I need to work some more on the map of Dragon City, because I kind of need an opening somewhere that I hadn't envisioned. But yeah, I'll need to figure that out. And I found that the companions have a certain companion power. In a way, I'll need to find a proper word for that. But for now, it's companion power, with which they can communicate not only with their dragon companions, for which I also need to find a different name, because it's going to cause confusion, I think. Because we have the companions of the dragons, who are the humanoids or other species, doesn't matter, but not the dragons. And then we have the dragon companions, who are the companions of the companions. So, yeah, I need to find another name for that. But I'll get there. I'll figure it out. That's all part of the fun. That's all the fun things of writing and of your writing process. And you only run into that when you not only write it, but when you also really think about how things can conflict with each other. And I mean, I hear myself saying, like, okay, so we've got the companions of the dragons, and then we have the dragon companions, and I was like, that's not gonna be handy. So we have the companions and the companions, so who's who exactly? So yeah, I'll need to think about that. But that's something for a different time, not now. I'm right now working on the major things that happen in that short story, and I think I have quite a part set up already. So that will help me start writing probably tomorrow. I don't think I'll be writing today, but we'll see about that. Ida, yes! It's hilarious, right? I mean, yeah, it's I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'll just need to think about it. I did not see that one coming. You see, the reason why I'm struggling with that is because I don't want to use the term dragon rider, because they are far more than dragon riders. They are really companions of the dragons, and the dragons are far more than beasts, like you see, for example, in Game of Thrones. And that is why I don't call them dragon riders, but I call them dragon companions. But yeah, I need to work on that. But I'll see. Maybe I'll find a term through conlanging, which is in the future for me. That is most certainly something I'm going to do. I mean, I don't expect to make a complete, I don't know, 60,000 words language and things like that, but just, you know, things to make it feel real and realistic. So yeah. Did you say you got very little done because of disturbances, so you just got back in time for a little laugh? Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, so that's where I stand right now with this short story. I'm happy to say I'm happy that it's progressing this way, because originally, I mean, I hadn't even intended to write this story. It was just something that was in the back of my mind. It was a it was just an event that's part of their life or of their history, but not it was never going to be part of the original main series. Um, but right now, I got the idea to have that free story for my future newsletter, and I thought, well, this might be interesting. So I asked in our Fantasy Devon Discord, and our members were like, "Yeah, do that. We're very interested in hearing about that." So thank you everyone for convincing me to write this story. And the way I've set it up right now, hopefully that will help me to not make it into 70 pages and then not even having reached halfway through the story. So I'll have to see about that, but I really want this to be a short story, maybe 10, maybe 20,000 words, but not, I mean, I hope I can keep it from becoming a novella. We'll see about that. We'll see how well I can limit it, how well I can limit myself. Did you say conlanging about 500 words will take you a good way along? Actually, yeah. And I mean, I don't need everything. I just need enough to make a difference, to have certain terms. And also I will have multiple conlangs, because I have people from all over the world in Tagenay. And that can make for interesting mix-ups, interesting mistakes, like words in Tuama, where Najat is from. You guys will hear about Najat more in the future. Certain words there have a meaning that is quite different. The word itself is the same, but the interpretation of the word is different from the common language, and it's also different from the language that is normal native for silk and bamboo. So that will cause a mix-up, of which you guys will hear later, much later. That's a fun thing. So yeah, and also certain not only written languages, but also pics that have been used thousands of years ago at certain places that can also be interpreted in many ways. So yeah, that's also going to be interesting. And that's all part of the world building in Tercanine. Dida, you say that would probably be more than you need, but again, conlanging is another rabbit hole when loving all things fantasy. Exactly. And you say, oh yeah, that pre-story is worth it. Thank you. 10K is 5 chapters or so. Yeah, it might be. I'll see how it turns out. I mean, this is a story I want to have told. By now, I've made that decision, and it's for the people involved, it's really impactful. So I'll see how it turns out. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10 chapters. I'll see. I just don't want it to turn into a novel of its own or a novella. Yeah, I'll see how it goes. So I promised you guys, we looked into myths, and I covered 3 myths already earlier. An author always works alone. An author has to have suffered. Women can't write high fantasy. I have 2 more myths about authors. And if you guys know any other myths, I would love to hear them. One of the myths that slightly annoy me, is the myth you have to write about what you know. Well, here's a surprise. When you write a fantasy story in a completely made-up world, it's a bit hard to write what you know, because then you would write a story set here on Earth in our time. So here's the thing. Write what you know is not something you should take literally, at least in my opinion. Write what you know is something you can take in a different way. You are the one who knows your world and who develops your world. So that is what you know. Another thing is, you use your own experiences to write. Your experiences are the things that you know. And write about what you want to know and figure out everything about that. Why do I say that? For example, dragons. I mean, dragons in fantasy, often I have to say, in European, Western fantasy, often dragons are the fire-breathing, treasure-hoarding dragons that are evil or on the borderline of evil. But for me, the first dragon I came to know about was, what's his name? Falcor, I think, of the Neverending Story. That, for me, set the baseline for dragons, and he is such a wonderful dragon. I love him. He is, if I'm correct, based on Chinese dragons. Chinese dragons, Asian dragons are a whole different ballgame. So I dove into that, and I also play the game Dragon Cave. And Dragon Cave has a huge variety of dragons, all with their own quirks and personalities and biomes and eating habits and living habits and mating habits, etc., etc. There are currently, I think, about 150 or 200 species of dragons in Dragon Cave, and those, in combination with the Asian dragons, convinced me that a long time ago already. Convinced me that there is so much more to dragons than those European evil beasts. And that's what I dove into. Well, not those European evil beasts. I dove into the concept of a dragon. When do you call a creature a dragon? And how do you deal with certain things? How big is a dragon? How can a dragon fly? So I also looked at dinosaurs and comparable creatures. And that's not easy, but those were the things I wanted to know about. I wanted to know how I can make my dragons fly. Also, dragons are often pictured as huge animals. And I was like, why do I only have those humongous animals? But you don't need to limit yourself. One of the other things, well, one of the artists, I should say, who inspired me as well, is Andy Fraser of Dragons of Wales. He has discovered dragons that can fit in the tip of your pinky. or just in the palm of your hand, and those are really small dragons. And I was like, why wouldn't I have those small dragons in Tergane? And that is when I decided to approach that subject completely different. And I do have dragons. I have dragons of all sizes, and also a great variety. I have wyverns. I have snake-like dragons. I have dragons that have wings but not legs. I have the normal dragons with 4 legs and 2 wings. You name it, I think I've got them in Tergane. So that's the thing. That's one of the elements of write what you know about. I dove into that and I set it up for Tergane and thus for my own world. And I know my own world the best. There's no one else who knows my world the best. At least at the moment. Use your experiences to write. People often think they don't have enough experience, but you go through life, which inherently means that you have life experience. And sure, if you are, I don't know, 20 years old, you'll have less life experience than I have at my age. I'm a couple of decades older. But you have experience. And your experience at 20 years old is probably far different from my experience at 20 years old. Back then it was, we had a quite different society. Like simple things like cell phones, computers, those were things that were... I'm sorry, I heard a weird thing. Okay. Back then, those were things that had been introduced. Not even a decade before that, I think. So yeah, those are quite different experiences. We didn't have social media. We had text, or SMS, if you recall that, and we had a phone, and we had internet. For those who don't know, we had internet with that famous sound. I can't exactly reproduce it, but it's that weird sound. Yeah, that's what we had. And we could only use, we only had one line. So if someone was on the internet, you couldn't call with a landline because that was simply impossible. It was either the internet or calling someone. And then mobile phones, cell phones were introduced, and we had these things that you could just fold. Back then it was quite normal, and now it's new. But we didn't have social media. We had news groups where we shared things. Websites were just getting out that were done, but we didn't have things like Facebook. At some points we had hives, I think, and other smaller things, but we've seen it introduced, and that means that our social interactions were way different than the social interactions that teenagers and 20-something right now have. So that's a completely different experience that you have, and from which you can write your story. And did you say in how to bloody learn new things? In fantasy, one needs to make the world sound like you know all about it. Exactly. Exactly. So that is one of the reasons why you will find fantasy authors really diving into certain subjects because we need to know about things. But I will paraphrase, I don't know the exact quote. I will paraphrase Brandon Sanderson on this. You can work out one thing in your story really deep into the detail, and readers will believe that you have done your research and went into detail of everything in your story. I won't suggest that you make up everything and just scratch the surface for everything in your story, because readers will punch through that. But you don't need to work out every little detail and every little thing into the smallest detail. Sometimes it's enough to just know the rough lines. I mean, I don't need to know exactly how a printing press works, as long as I know that my avian creatures and the flutter nymphs and other tiny dragons and other tiny creatures, flying creatures, can get the newspapers from the magical printing press and deliver them to Targaryen's. So, yeah, that. I don't need to know exactly how that printing press works, as long as I know that it works and that I can use some magic to get things working. So yeah. Did you say, oh, your dragons don't really follow lore? Yeah, I know about that. And I love it. I love it. Guys, really, when you get a chance later on, once Dita has published her books, just buy them, read them, borrow them from the library. You'll be amazed. Did he say sometimes it's enough to have a vivid imagination to have interesting topics? Exactly. ADSL, couple line. Yeah. Oh, those good old days. You got your first mobile phone when you were 15 and not many had one then. I couldn't write text messages yet, but it could store as many as 10 phone numbers. Yeah, we were quite limited back then. And right now we have those unlimited cell phone plans and things like that, and unlimited transfer data, and we have gigabytes of transfer and gigabytes of speed on your home internet. Back then, we were already happy to be able to send messages over internet and to send small, and I do mean small, images, as in that they don't take a lot of room, as in really small KB instead of MB or gigabytes. So yeah, those were the good old days. One more myth that lots of authors hear, I've heard that as well, is you can't write anything unique, or the other version of that, everything has already been written. What do you think you can add to that? Well, in a way that might be, but at the same time, my world, Tergne, is something that came from my imagination. Nobody has ever read anything about it. It's something I designed and I came up with. The characters, the stories, the history, etc. It's not out there. It's my world, so it's not out there. And sure, it might have some overlap with, or some not overlap. Oh God, how do you say that? Some of the similar things like other worlds have, but at the same time, it is a unique world. And sure, the grand story might be similar to what you may find in other books, but it is written from my point of view. It is written from my experiences, and that makes it unique. It's not the fact that I use dragons, or that Tagenei has dragons and the Tagenei has mages. That's not unique. You will find dragons in all kinds of stories. You will find mages in all kinds of stories, especially fantasy stories. I mean, not in present day Earth stories. But the fact that you write it from your experience, that I write it from my experience, from my point of view, from my way of thinking, from what I've been through in life, that is what makes my stories unique. And that is something no one else can do. Not with my characters in my world. And that is what sets my world, Tagenei, and my stories apart from, for example, Aquarius from Dida, but also from Mistborn, from Brandon Sanderson, or I don't know, Discovery of Witches. I'm just naming a few books out of the top of my head right now. Discovery of Witches from Deborah Harkness, or A Throne of Glass from Sarah J. Maas. And what's that series from Ursula Le Guin, or Christopher Paolini with The Inheritance Cycle, and the other dragon stories. They had a concept and I have a different concept. And that is what makes our stories different. Their experiences are not my experiences, and that makes our stories different. And that is what is important. It's not that the concept of dragons is unique, because it isn't. I mean, if we want to go to a period where dragons were unique, we probably have to go back a couple of 100 years, if not more, because it has been found in medieval literature. So, yeah, you'd have to go back quite a long time to be able to find a moment in time where you would write about dragons and that it would be unique and never been seen. I mean, and that's only talking about European literature. I mean, if you look at Asian experiences, dragons are part of their culture, and that's really not of the last couple of 100 years. So, yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. So keep that in mind. It's your vision, it's your experiences that make your story unique. It's not necessarily the fact that you have dragons in your story. So yeah, keep that in mind. Did you say there was a luxury of having minutes of talking time? Exactly. Going back to the mobile phones. Yeah. Written before, that must have been me in a former life. Could be. And we're reusing some tropes, but still making our own twists on them. Exactly. And that is what is important. That is also the important thing to keep in mind when you want to use a trope. I mean, we've got the damsel in distress trope, we've got the chosen one trope, there are so many tropes. But make it your own. Give your own twist to it. Turn it around. If you want to go to the trope of the emperor with a harem, turn it around and make it an empress with a full male harem. I mean, there are so many options to turn it around, to give it your own twist. And that is what is important to keep in mind. Orsi, yeah, Le Guin. That's the one I was looking for, indeed, Dida. Thank you. Here we're talking over 1,000 years with dragons. Seriously, yeah, that's into the Asian culture, indeed. That goes back so far away. And I mean, animal gods. Hell, go back to the Egyptians and go back to the Romans. They had animal gods. I mean, that's not if you want to go back to a time when animal gods were unique, you need to go back thousands of years. Maybe to the beginning of humanity-ish things. Yeah, because they were revered, whatever you want to say. However you can say that, I don't know. So writing something unique, as in it has never been done and it is completely new and it has never been seen, you're wanting the impossible. Even James Cameron with Avatar, I'm not talking about Avatar The Last Airbender, I'm talking about Avatar, the other Avatar. He's made an incredible world. But in the basics, it's the natives fighting the invaders. Hello, history. How far do we need to go back to have that being unique? I mean, hundreds of thousands of years? I don't know. I mean, that's it. I mean, even George R. R. Martin with Game of Thrones, his story is inspired by, Dina, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the War of the Roses, I think, if I'm correct. So, is his story unique? No, it's founded in history. It has its origin in history. So is it considered unique in that aspect? No, but the way he has written it, and the way he has written his characters and everything that happens in the Game of Thrones, that is unique. So take your own work from your own perspective, and that makes your story unique. And did he say dragon rushes forward to kill the princess, save the prince, and kiss him? Oh, I like that. Yeah. Oh, you don't remember you don't know where George R. R. Martin took his inspiration from. I think it was the War of the Roses, but I'm not entirely sure. Not 100% sure. There was one more surprise myth that I wanted to share with you guys, but I just can't remember anymore. And I didn't write it down, so I can't find it either. So yeah, those were the myths I wanted to debunk today. It's just, how shall I say that? There are so many ways that you can do things and work with others, and work with your own ideas and with your own experience, that these myths are so easily debunked. Thank you, Dina. Thank you. You're making me blush again. Okay. I want to do one more creative session because yeah, I want to do a little bit more writing. We'll do 25 minutes again, and then I'm gonna call it a day because then it's 5 p.m. already, past 5 p.m. And I think we've had some good sessions. And if you are watching this after the live stream, let me know what you think about the myths that we just talked about, and what other myths you found and you heard, and that you can easily debunk, or myths that you believe in and why do you believe in them. Specifically myths relating to writing and being an author. I mean, there are so many myths in the world about all kinds of things. And I'm specifically talking about myths about being an author and about writing. So yeah. Did you say it's just hilarious how some have strict agendas and know exactly what to say, having a full script, and you sit there talking on the fly, being genuinely you? Well, thank you, thank you. Well, it's sometimes it's also hard. Like now, this morning I had something like, oh, I need to add that. I mean, I have written down a few keynotes for myself, but that's just about it. Because I can't do fully scripted, but I can't do without some keynotes either. Especially now that my brain is still not functioning correctly due to post-COVID. Just going on the fly, fully going on the fly is then I might just ramble and lose my way, and I'll end up somewhere that's really not related to the original subject. But yeah, this works most of the time. and I'm very happy to hear that it works for you guys as well. Thank you very much. And yeah, those myths are so many. You're absolutely right about that. Oh, word count. Yeah, that's a good one. You need this or that many words to call yourself an author. That's yeah. Also, and I will go into that in another video. I will go into that deeper, but there's one thing that that annoys me, or another thing that annoys me, another myth that annoys me. People say you aren't an author until you are officially published. Well, if you look at the definition of an author, it is, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't know it out of the top of my head, but it is actually just someone who writes. So if you write, you are an author. Whether you are published or not, that doesn't matter. You are an author. The definition doesn't say that you need to be published to be called an author. That's what really annoys me when people say, are you an aspiring author or are you really an author? No, I'm an author because I write. An aspiring author, the way I see it, is someone who keeps saying they want to write a book or want to write articles like a journalist, but doesn't do the work for it and doesn't write the book, doesn't write the articles. Then you are, in that case, you are an aspiring author. You're not an author because you don't write, you don't do it. But if you write, I mean, if you write your story and you put it on your site, or on your Patreon or whatever, keep in mind that the moment you put it on internet, you are a published author. You might not get money for it. You might not be published as in having your books being bought and being in the shops, being published by one of the big five publishers or an independent publisher, or you might not self-publish it as a book, as an official book. But the moment you put it on the internet, you have published your work. So keep that in mind. At that moment, you essentially are a published author. Maybe not in the traditional way, but you are a published author. So that's one of those things that really annoys me. Did you say no? Debunk anytime? Thank you. And also the other way that a lot of words must mean all is crap. No. And personally, best under inspiration siege is 35k in 4 days. That was needed while the pressure was on, and you did get it down. Exactly. And also, there's difference in the fantasy world, in the world of fantasy books. Let me put it that way. In the world of fantasy books, of fantasy writing, you inherently need far more words, especially if you have a completely made-up world like Dita and I have. Dita has Aquarius and I have Terganate. You need many more words, because otherwise you would land in the white room syndrome, because people don't know your world. I mean, if I am writing a book that plays in, I don't know, Amsterdam, that's the closest big town for me. People can imagine what Amsterdam looks like. They can look up photos, etc. So modern day Amsterdam, no problem. London, New York, Paris, you name it, people can imagine it. Beijing, the Great Wall of China, St. Petersburg, I think, in Russia. The Mayan cities, you name it, people can imagine it. But if you have a complete world of your own making, people won't know what things look like unless you show them what they look like. So that inherently, automatically means you need more words than a contemporary fiction author or a contemporary romance author. That makes a huge difference. That is also why in traditional publishing, you will have more leeway if you are a high fantasy author. That said, even Brandon Sanderson, with his 250k words books, was initially turned down several times because his books were too big. And he was like, well, you can say my books are too big, but this is my world and this is how I write, so take it or leave it. And he's published, and we're 20 years in and he's still publishing books. So don't let that stop you. That's the big difference. And sure, you can start with a small book. I remember that Harry Potter, the first book, was relatively small. I mean, that didn't have that overdue amount of words. But if I look at the first book of the Inheritance Cycle, that was quite bigger. And that's, I mean, it makes quite a difference in how people see it and how they experience it. Did you say word count on your inner magic only? Oh crap, that would be huge chunks of it. Things that would be invisible on video. Exactly. Film, movie, yeah. And you see, that is what matters. You need to show your reader your world, and that needs words. Whether you take the show don't tell approach or the just tell approach, you need words one way or the other, so that your readers know what your world looks like. And did you say Sanderson is wildly famous and widely read? Yes. And your world is well past the 7 Harry Potter books now in second draft. It only means you have some work done and have less left than last year. Yeah, and it's one of the important things, and one of the pitfalls, I think, for beginner authors is that they often compare their own work and their own career with authors who are well established and who are 20 years ahead of them. I mean, if I would compare myself to Brandon Sanderson, to, I don't know, George R. Martin, Sarah J. Maas, Ursula Le Guin, Deborah Harkness, Diana Gabaldon, to just to name a few, they have a career and they have been at it for years already. If I were to compare my work right now with their work after years, I mean, my book would fall down the drain, let's be honest. And that's one of the things you shouldn't do. It's also, if you look back at works from authors, from famous authors, and you look back at their early work, you might not be that impressed. It's one of the things we learn here at YouTube as well. That's the YouTubers have the same pitfall. Many new YouTubers will look at their own channel and their own videos and are like, oh, but I'm not as good as, I don't know, Mr. Beast or PewDiePie or whatever. They have millions of followers, they have whole teams working for them, etc. But they reached that level after years of hard work. And new YouTubers are oftentimes comparing their beginnings with where those established YouTubers are right now. That's wrong, but that is something I often see with creative people in various creative fields. I also see that with people who are in game development or who are artists, or for example, be it musicians or artists who make, okay, for lack of a better word at the moment, drawings, paintings, sculptures. You get experience by doing the art, and you will get better. And you might eventually reach that same level as that person you are admiring now. But they will have grown again as well. So if you keep comparing yourself to that one author or musician or whomever, you will always be behind. Is that a reason not to query your book or not to self-publish your book? Absolutely not. Because you learn with each book you write, you learn with each book you have published through traditional publishing or through your own self-publishing. You will learn with each query that you do. And that is the essence of this. And did he say, but come on, none of those famous people can write like you? That's, yeah. And that is, that's the fun part. And that harks back to what I said earlier. It's your experience. It's your point of view. It's your way of thinking that is in your book. And that also makes your book and not theirs. They can't write your story. Brandon Sanderson can't write my story because of the way I think, because of the experiences I have had in my life. He can't write my story. I mean, he has done an amazing job with Wheel of Time. I've heard that from many people. After he took over from Robert Jordan. But from what I understand, I haven't read all the books yet. From what I understand, the later books, the books that have been written by him, are somewhat different than Robert Jordan's books, the books that Robert Jordan himself wrote. That's where you see the differences. He worked with the material Robert Jordan left behind, but he's no Robert Jordan. He is an immensely famous and immensely successful author who has written I don't know how many books. At the same time, and you see that with so many authors, including J.R.R. Tolkien with Lord of the Rings, there are people who can't get through Lord of the Rings because of the amount of world building that's in Lord of the Rings. I love it. I really love the detail and what he put into it. It's incredible for me. But there are people who just can't get through it. And that's not because, how shall I say that? Because they are not well versed enough to read the books. No, it's just that style of writing is not their style of reading. It doesn't speak to them. And that makes a difference. And that's also what sets authors apart. Each author has his or her own writing style and way of displaying characters and events that happen. I mean, in my books, you will find lots of world building details. Both because I think it's important to give you guys the information you need to envision Tergene as much as possible the way I envisioned it. And I'm lost. I wanted to say another thing, but I'm lost. I'm totally lost. I don't remember anymore. Did you say comparison is a reason for writer's block as well? It's not frugative. Exactly. And that's really, how shall I say that? That's really something you have to work through and leave behind as quickly as possible. Yes, it can be a huge writing block, but it's a writing block that you just have to get over it. And I know it's not easy, but it's not a writing block that you need. And it's not fair also to yourself and to your own book to compare yourself and to compare your first book to a well-established author who is on his 10th or 20th or 50th book. It's not fair. So don't do that. Did he say, yes, Sanderson landed the Wheel of Time well? They are different, but he set a more determined pace where Jordan was about to meander out. Yeah, okay. See, that's the information I don't have yet because I'm not that far into the Wheel of Time. And Tolkien had the most lovely English, learned and clever, but not outsmarting, while others call it old-fashioned. But whom else would call long ago for yesteryear? Exactly. And the future is definitely morrow year. And that is a way of thinking that Tolkien had, and everyone has his or her own way of thinking, and that is important. And that is what makes you as an author unique and what makes your book unique. And then we go back to that myth of nothing is unique. You can't write anything unique. It is all unique. Unless someone steals your work and publishes your work as his or her own. But then your work is still unique. It's just that their work isn't unique. So yeah, I mean, that happens as well. But it's unique. And to hark back to what we said earlier about generative AI is not capable of capturing your voice, capturing your emotions. Generative AI does not know what it feels like to feel someone's eyes pricking in your back, so to speak. Generative AI doesn't know what it feels like to have this unheimlich feeling that someone is out there in the dark watching you. Generative AI isn't capable of showing that. That is what makes us as authors really unique. And yeah, that's important. And did you say generative AI can't invent either? Exactly. Generative AI can only work on what's already been done. And it can predict the next words that might follow a certain sentence or a certain word. But it can't invent, I don't know, hell, I can't even think of an example right now. But yeah, it's incapable of inventing something truly unique and truly new. And that's something to keep in mind. It is something that you can do as an author. And don't let anyone else tell you that you can't think of something unique, because that's not true. That's what we talked about earlier. Okay, because I'm really starting to get trouble finding words. I think it's not wise to do another creative session, because it's starting to get really complicated for me right now. So I need to step back. It's been too much. So yeah, I see the time is well past 5 p.m. and doing another half hour, that's going to be way too much for me. So I'm taking a look at what Dida just said. We have some things to learn from Asian countries like Japan and South Korea in regards of protecting artist work and copywriting in the setting of using AI as a tool. Yep. And I hope that here in Europe, they can learn from that, and in America as well, and in all over the world. But it's gonna take time, and I have a feeling that, speaking of the suffering we talked about earlier, some fields might really suffer from it before things get better. And the same goes for us authors. We see Amazon, for example, flooded with generative AI books, and those can easily be transformed into audiobooks at the moment and become part of Audible. And if you want to know more about that debacle, I can advise you to go to Daniel Green's channel, because he has made several videos about that whole thing. So please go check him out, because it's important to also submit your name into the petition against Audible, against what they are planning to do. So yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. And if you see this later, once this live stream has ended, thank you for watching. And join our Discord. And yeah, that's it. No, wait. Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. The rest I've already had. I wish you a lot of fun. And yeah, one more thing. The next Golden Quill Month live stream will be September the 14th. Yeah, September 14th. That's Sunday in 2 weeks. Oh, it's a bit slow. I see. Okay. Yeah, September 14th, normal time, 1 p.m. Central European time. And I will schedule it tomorrow, I think. So that you guys can be notified of the live stream. Thank you very much. Join our Discord for more Golden Quill Month shenanigans. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.